Math Circle, and today we're going to be reviewing Session 4 of Junior Advanced. And the topic that we're going to be covering today is fractions and operations. So let's get started. First, we're going to learn about a common method used to find the LCM, or least common multiple, and the GCF, or the greatest common factor. And that's called the ladder method. So today we're going to be going over that. So first, let's look at the steps. So step number 1 is put the two numbers inside of the ladder. So if I want to use the numbers 36 and 1,228, then I'll put them in the ladder. Step 2 is ask yourself, what is the smallest number that will divide evenly into both numbers, that is greater than 1? So for this, it would be 2. So step 3, write how many times it will divide into each number below the line. So let's draw a line here. And 36 divided by 2 would be 18. And 1,228 would be 614. So step 4 is repeat steps 2 and 3 until there are only prime numbers left and there is no number greater than 2 that can divide evenly into both of these numbers. So we can divide it by 2 again, and then we'll get 9 and 307. And after this, we will have to pause because there is no number that can divide evenly into both of these, because 9 is divisible by 1, 9, and 3. And 307 is divisible by none of those except for 1. But we can't write 1 or else it would be an endless pattern. So the GCF, once we end, will be the product of the factors on the left, so on this side. So 2 times 2 is equal to 4. So this would be our GCF. And the LCM will be the GCF and the numbers on the bottom multiplied together. So it would be 2 times 2, which is 4. So it's 4 times 9 times 307, because 9 and 307 are on the very bottom row and are the numbers that we ended with. And this equals 11,052. So this would be our LCM. Next, we're going to learn about fraction equivalence. So to make equivalent fractions, you need to either multiply or divide the same number to the both numerator and denominator. Because if you have 1/2 and you decide to multiply 2 by the bottom, then you'll get 1/4, which is not the same as 1/2. To explain it further in depth, let's look at this pair. So if you multiply this by 2 and multiply this by 2, then you'll get 2/4, which is equal to 1/2. So if you're confused, here is a more visual representation. So let's say you have 2 pizzas, and you want to cut one of them in half, so you cut it in half. And this would be the piece that you want. But let's say you want to cut it into fourths and take home 2. So you would cut it into fourths, and then you would take these 2. And as you can see, these are the exact same size, therefore signaling that they are equal. Next, we're going to learn about ordering. So to order easily, you want to make sure that all of the denominators are the same. So if you look at this example, then we see that we don't have to do any multiplying or dividing because all the denominators are 7. So we can easily order this. And also, when all of the denominators are equal, the fraction with the smallest numerator will be the smallest fraction, and the fraction with the biggest numerator will be the biggest fraction out of the bunch. So if you want to order it from least to greatest, it will be 4 over 7, 5 over 7, and then 6 over 7. And this would be our ordered form. Now, if you look at this example, it seems a bit tougher because all the denominators are different. So what we want to do is make them equal. So since 8 out of all of the denominators is the greatest one, then we're going to make all of these also 8. So for this first fraction, we're going to multiply it by 4 because 4 times 2 is equal to 8. So that would be 4 over 8. For this next fraction, we want to multiply it by 2 because 4 times 2 is still equal to 8. So it'd be 2 over 8. And for this last fraction, it would just stay the same because its denominator is already 8 and no changes are needed. So now if we want to order it from least to greatest, then it would be 1 over 8, 2 over 8, and 4 over 8. And that would be our ordered form. Next, let's learn about how to add and subtract fractions. So to add fractions together, you want to make sure that first their denominators are the same. And next, you want to ensure that you add the numerators but don't add the denominators. So for example, if we look at this problem, then we would add the numerators and not add the denominators. So this would be equal to 4 over 5 because you want to put the denominator underneath the numerator. And step 3 is simplify if needed, but in this case we don't need to simplify. So for this problem below, it's a little bit trickier because the denominators aren't the same, and so you want to make them the same. So this is where the concept of least common multiple comes in. You want to find the least common multiple between these two numbers, and so it would be 60. So you want to do times 12 because 12 times 5 is equal to 60. So it would be 60 over 12. And this you want to change into 5 over 60 because 12 times 5 is 60 and 1 times 5 is 5. And here you would just add it up. So this would be equal to 17 over 60. And so that would be your answer. So for subtraction, it's basically the same steps, except you're subtracting. So we can jump right into the problems. So this problem is still pretty easy. You just get 2 over 5 because the denominators are the same, so you don't need to do anything to change them. But for this, it's harder because the denominators are obviously different. So what you want to do, as shown in this problem, you want to change them to 60 because that's the least common multiple between them. So this would become 12 over 60, and this would become 5 over 60. And you would do essentially the same thing in the last problem, except you would subtract. So you would get 7 over 60 as your answer. Now let's learn about how to multiply fractions and the concept of a reciprocal. So the 3 steps or 4 steps to multiplying fractions is 1. Simplify the fractions if possible, and also if it's going to make the problem easier to solve, because sometimes you don't want to simplify it. The next step is to multiply the numerators for the new numerator. And the 3rd step is to multiply the denominators to make the new denominator. And the 4th step is to assemble the fraction. So let's look at 2 examples. So example 1 is this. So 2 over 10 times 9 over 3. So what you want to do first is to simplify these. So this would be equal to 1 over 5 times 3. And what you want to do here is you want to make this into a fraction. So it'd be 1 over 5 times 3 over 1. And then here you can easily multiply it to 3 over 5. And this would be our answer. Now for this problem, it's a lot complicated. It's a lot more complicated because it's pretty long. So in this case, this is where you don't want to simplify. Because even though it may seem tempting to simplify this 3 over 18, you actually don't want to do that. So if we set aside this last fraction for now and just focus on these, let's look at the pattern here. So for the numerator in the start, it slowly goes up by 1 because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, ... all the way up until 20. And for the denominator, it's starting from 20 and then it goes down by 1 because it's 20, 19, 18, 17, ... all the way to 1. So the reason why you don't want to simplify here is because there's a really easy way to solve this, believe it or not. So what you do is you see this one and this one, well, that can be canceled. So these no longer play a role. And so you can do that for all the rest of the numbers. Because for example, 2 is canceled, 3 is canceled, 4 is canceled, 17 is canceled, 18 is canceled, and you get the gist. And eventually, all of these fractions will be 1 times 1 times 1, and over again. And we all know that that equals 1. So the answer would actually be 4 over 99, because it'd be this fraction times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 and ... And if we simplify it, then it'd be this. So next, let's move on to the concept of a reciprocal. So to get a reciprocal of a fraction or a number is pretty easy. So all you have to do is just to swap the numerator and the denominator. So first, let's look at this. So if we swap the numerator and the denominator, then we get 8 over 2, which can be simplified to 4 over 1, or 4. And that would be our reciprocal of 2 over 8. So for 2, you want to make it a fraction first. So it'd be 2 over 1. And then here you can swap the numerator and the denominator. And then you would get 1 over 2. And that would be our reciprocal. For this, it's easy, just swap these, and then you get 4 over 16, which can be simplified to 1 over 4. And for this, it's a bit harder because it's a mixed fraction. So what you want to do, like what you did here, you want to make it into a fraction first, not a mixed fraction, a fraction. So 2 times 4 is equal to 8, and 8 plus 1 is 9. So this would be equal to 9 over 4. And now you can get the reciprocal of this, which is 4 over 9. And that would be your reciprocal.
Don't forget to subscribe and like. If you have any questions, you can email info@agoramathcircle.org or comment below and we'll reply back. Maybe. And if you want to see practice things or anything about us, you can visit our website, which is basically the end of the email, but without the info and the end. So bye!